Welcome everyone who's already here to this lesson about tenuki, how to be one step ahead and the power of tenuki. Let me check if everything is fine. First of all, do you hear me well? Yeah, okay, then everything should be fine. I have a new setup today, but it should be just as good as last time. And yes, so until more people gather up, I will say a bit of an introduction of what today is going to be about. So why tenuki, and how does that make us be one step ahead in any case? Well, to my understanding of modern Go so far, speed on the board is essential, right? Speed and flexibility as opposing to being slow and heavy. And what I mean is that before AI, we still had the concept of locally good, right? There was still a lot of Japanese influence, if you want to call it that way, right? So the locally good choice or locally good shape had to be, so we thought, also the globally good shape. And nowadays we search for the best move at each individual point of the game, no matter whether that's through an abrupt tenuki or a fourth line shoulder hit or sansan at the beginning of the game. Whatever is the biggest, we have to seek for it and try to find it. Yeah, and of course there are also some risks in having this type of mindset. Sometimes you can fall into certain things, but we will talk about that later as well. So yeah, this is what we will do today. We will look at different situations, mostly from professional games, where we can see how the masters deal with the tenuki and how they play it, right? Okay, so let's see one first example. Let's get into it. I can also tell you the players every now and then. Unfortunately, not all of them are shown here. Just a second. Maybe if I open the document. So where is it? Here. Right, so okay, this first game, well, I'm still not 100% sure. Wait. But anyways, it's more or less irrelevant. It's all of them are top players, and I selected many games. Yeah, I think this first game is between Byun Sang-gil and Gu Zhao, but it could be wrong. And so yes, they begin. They play this, let's say nowadays uncommon small shimari. Even though I have seen it abundantly, I must say, recently in like when I look on Gokifu, that's where I got my material this time, and when I made my research, I've seen tens of games actually with the small shimari, so it's still popular. And yeah, and then we have this shoulder hit. Now this shoulder hit is meant to be played in order for black to answer, and then for us to tenuki to play somewhere else right away. And this is already an idea of how tenuki is used very early on in the game. And this made me think, could I maybe also classify the types of tenuki? Yes, so I came with a classification with, okay, I'm not sure if I should really call it, because they are all more or less the same thing. So I thought like this. So we have three types of tenuki, right? We have a tenuki in order to make the local continuation be unreasonable for our opponent. I have examples on this in the lecture today. Basically, imagine a situation in which our opponent well, I can also improvise in this on this board. So on this board, maybe black would think to play something like this. Okay, it's not really a good move, but black could extend on this side, right? Maybe even further away. But once we have this exchange done, right now for black to play somewhere here is not anymore a great move, because 1 with 2 happened already, and it might be later on in the game, it might be nice for white to play this move at 3. So it's basically is the type of throwing a move and playing tenuki in order to diminish our opponent's choices locally. So that's one first type. And a second type is something like giving our opponent more points locally in order to get valuable global stones. Actually, this is a very good example for that, because in essence, this type of exchange gives black more points at first sight, right? It does give him more points. Imagining that white even continued and played, I'm not sure, something, then we make it more clear what black has. We make black more solid, give him more points, but at the same time, we are getting exchanges globally that should be more valuable than what we gave. So that's the second time, giving in order to take more. And the third type is creating a bait, right? So playing a stone somewhere and then playing tenuki is, or maybe even during a sequence, right? A sequence is being played, and at some point we just tenuki. Can create the illusion, the false illusion that, we induce to our opponent the thought, oh, that tenuki does not make sense. I will continue here locally, I will get profit. When in fact, as we said, locally, that is not a big move. And there's also examples in that sense. Once again, I will improvise to show in this particular case scenario. So white played 1, 2, 3, and someone might think, oh, now it is so big to play this hane, right? And to, what did white do? I can build a lot of points in this area now, right away. White should have continued. But this is a wrong thought, right? Because if we just make a tevari, right, if we just delete these 2 stones from the board, all of a sudden we see the reality. Black just played a very, very slow move. And yeah. Okay, so I try to kind of give an example for these 3 types on this first example that we had. We will have better examples later. Important to say here, I guess, is that these different types, maybe they are not really different types of tenuki. Maybe they are more like different attributes of a tenuki, right? Different things that a tenuki can be good for, right? It can be all of these 3 at the same time, as a matter of fact. Okay. Marcel said merits, but merits. You mean as a better word for attributes? Three types of merits for tenuki. Yes, yeah, that's what I mean. Thank you for for the grammatic help there. Yes. So let's see, what do we have here? Yeah. This was this was an example that I really liked, because for a long time in my own Go, I was very confused, especially in the last years when Sansan is played so often. It was a mystery to me what to do with these 3 stones in all kind of situations. So I was really not sure, because sometimes it seems like we just have a Hoshi, and then our opponent suddenly, after playing Sansan, if we don't want to add another move there, then then they are just weak stones, right? They are baseless stones that why do we even play Hoshi, you know? Sorry. Yeah. So how to handle with these type of stones? And finally, in this game, we actually have two examples, right? We have A and B. Both players are kind of in a similar situation. So yeah, first I will talk a little bit about this shape, and then I will say what tenuki has to do with it. So when we play these three moves, I mean when we get ourselves in this type of situation, we should forget for a moment that we were there first, that was our corner from the beginning on. Because the new situation right now is very much different, right? Black has the upper hand in the corner area, and we can even to a certain extent consider that we have invaded Black's area, right? I mean, these are invasion stones, we can say, and they should just survive. That's what I'm trying to say. They should make a shape easily. They shouldn't die because then it becomes too big, of course. But white shouldn't really feel like there's more to be done there. I guess that's it, you know, because after black plays this type of move at h4, even in my own games, sometimes I feel like, oh no, this is bad. I have to do something. I mean, I was there first. I could have extended on the side somewhere and made points. There's something more I have to do now about it. Yes, but it's not the case. And so let's see how they handled it. Important to keep in mind, white had already tenuki 2 times in this lower left corner. So yeah, for black it is quite easy to settle his own stones actually, because white is not so thick himself on the right side. So black just jumps here, right? White defends, and then black makes some shape. And this shape actually leaves Aji behind in white's shape. That cut can be something later. And well, white also settles his group further. So that black gets tenuki once again to play in the bottom left corner. Yeah, so this is a completely fine situation. It continues to be just okay for white. And what white did now, something that I've learned not long ago myself, to just play this type of moves, right? Many of you might know about this. Is quite a popular attach, right? This combination with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then tenuki again. Play somewhere else. Take something big. So you see, white keeps the right mindset, the mindset that we sometimes might lose in our own games, which is that group should make a good shape and survive, and that's it. And what is also impressive in this particular game is to notice how after white plays this hane here, this hane, which is most likely meant to just be an exchange, a center exchange, I think. But maybe white even intended to play the tiger's mouth, right? This is actually quite a... Why is this a good thing? It makes eye shape, obviously, and also this cut is not really doing anything anymore, right? Because connection is center, so white's shape is stronger. No, sorry, stronger than it seems like. Yeah, exactly. But in the game, black played tenuki and cut there, right? So once again, we see this type of mindset of, okay, I invested already 3 more stones than you here locally. I invested 1 stone and then the second stone, and well, I mean the Sansan was the first one where black played, and yet black will not follow up because it is not the biggest move on the board, right? White played hane, black is already settled and quite strong with these stones, so he chooses to cut here. and yeah, the game starts to become this complex fight. But up until this point, I think there's quite a lot to learn. I've also seen in other games this type, well, a bit earlier, I guess. I've seen this type of move, right? This is the type of move that is trying to make a little bit more than just making a good shape, right? It's trying to kind of pull out these 3 stones whilst thinking about the center and of course thinking to play here later, maybe block the side. Yeah, so there's all kind of ideas, all kind of things we can do with these 3 stones, and I think that's pretty interesting. Yeah, I don't know, what do you think about this, guys? Do you have any questions? Does anything seem weird about playing in this fashion? Would you always extend here on the side and not let this happen to you as white? Actually, in this game, that would mean that you cannot even Sansan, right? Because black played h4 right away. So you would have to do something like this. Or would you at least, after tenuki, not allow black to play c7 as well? That's maybe also a question. Right, so here white kind of allowed black to play c7, which can become scary if we don't know how to handle. White always has as an alternative to do this type of thing, right? Always an option. And if black goes for this, then white is also happy. This is a Joseki. And, well, black can also be more aggressive and go for a direct cut. Now I'm not sure exactly what happens. Maybe this is not even acceptable for white with the stone here. Yeah. Okay. So let's see where the next example is. I'm also looking at my camera here on the side, and the chat. Yeah, hi everyone that joined. At least one Finnish club is watching. Yeah, probably. So if I look at the bottom left, black's 4 stones are all doing something, but white's 3 stones aren't pointless. Yeah, so this is the thing. In this example, it looks like this, right? It looks like white. No, don't close. It looks like white missed a chance, right? Lost a tempo somewhere, and got himself into this position where black is very efficient everywhere in this lower left corner, and white is not doing much. But we should not lose the fact that we tenuki it 3 times as white. That is quite important. White is much more present on this board globally than black, right? White has a big corner here, like also some territory on the side, settled, and center right now. I mean, we don't even necessarily have to answer locally, which is actually what white did, right? He just made a bit better exchanges and then played tenuki. Yeah, so the pointless stick, yeah, it's really a lot. Actually, this whole subject of tenuki is directly related to a positional judgment topic, right? When you play tenuki, when you leave something behind to get something else, you have to have in your mind more or less clear, okay, what was at the beginning, what am I getting in exchange, some sort of balance. Yeah. Since black answered underneath the white stone, can white stones be treated lightly? Yes, underneath. Do you mean Do you mean this? And black is underneath white stones? Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, I mean, usually when we are on top of our opponent and when we either reduce or just press on the side, and then yes, we are usually in a flexible position ourselves. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, let's go on and let's see what else we've got here. Was this example already good enough to say something about fake tenuki? Maybe, actually. Yeah, might be. So, if white starts this game, let's say this, let's say you guys are white in this game, right? And you start the game with the mindset, all right, I want to play in this tenuki fashion, right? I want to try it out. Then you might be at risk to play what is a fake tenuki, right? A tenuki which is not the biggest move on the board, and you should have rather answered first. In this case, so white, after making these exchanges, white can tenuki, but before making these exchanges, it might not be the best idea. I was thinking about this today in the morning, and I was thinking if white plays somewhere else, then is it too bad if we allow black to jump or to do something like this? And I came to the conclusion that it is quite bad because then we would really be on the run, right? It's not unclear anymore how black will run after this group. It is pretty clear, I would say. Like there's also a turn here. We are left baseless and floating. So yeah, be careful. I mean, well, be careful. You should be aware that if you have this mindset constantly, there's a few risks. And anyways, I promised I will say what the main risks of this are, but later, after we go through more examples. Then it makes more sense. All right. Yes. Yeah, actually, on the same topic of tenuki, we can look a little bit into such moves. So this topic is actually very, very broad. I think many things are included in, and through tenuki, for example, you can easily explain what's the point of this type of attach moves so early that we are so used to nowadays. Yeah, if you remembered one of the types of tenuki that I was mentioning before, it's giving more points locally in order to get more value globally, right? So that's literally all white is doing with this type of move. So in this game particularly, white played just like this, and then he already played tenuki, right? We are used usually to this type of push as well, but anyways, with or without the push, black already has more points than he had initially when black just had 2 stones in the corner. And white is betting on the fact that these 3 stones on the outside are light and will help more than not touching that corner would have helped, right? So this is also some sort of tenuki because we never really, I mean, okay, there are some josekis in which we actually finish the local shape and black ends up with sente, but most of the time it's just exchanges, isn't it, right? Actually, if I edit this a little bit and if I put the stone here, right, there is like there's all of these kind of josekis that we know from long ago where white is throwing away a few points, right, like 3 points locally in order to get these super valuable exchanges. Yeah. Actually, as a little bit of an uh, how to say, just a nice fact, a fun fact, I guess. I was researching in the past weeks with AI, and after this shoulder hit, actually, I have seen a few times how black tenukis. So it's quite funny, no? It's a kind of a plot twist because white plays here in the first place in order to make black answer, and so that he tenukis himself, right? Like white has the mindset of being quick and playing tenuki, and it's very funny how after this move, black is like, well, it's already too late. I will be quicker than you now. I will tenuki, and after white blocks. Apparently black can just play here, and there's that. Now white can tenuki himself because there's not really a locally good move. I mean, there's sorry. There's this type of continuation, of course, but I mean it's not so impressive, is it? It's just white just made some group that looks towards the center. So yeah, that's something fun as well. And yeah. Yes. Playing a few stones and then playing. It's actually quite interesting how this caught up so easily with everyone. It became a hit, right? And well, I guess it did not become a hit by itself. It is because we kind of started to imitate what top professionals were doing, right? And they were playing this abundantly after AI appeared. But yeah, I actually would encourage everyone all the time, including myself. I'm also trying to tell this to myself very often during my own games, to not play something just because you know it, because if you're playing against someone that is the same level as you, chances are that that person doesn't know either why a certain move is played. So if you don't play it, then chances are that you will not be punished. Actually, there is even an example that I have in this sense. How did it go? Yeah, there's this Joseki, right, from behind, from some time ago, I wanted to say, where black finishes with playing here. And this type of move looks important, right? Looks essential, but then comes the question why, right? And so yeah, if you don't know for sure why that Atari is so important, you can tenuki and then play it in your games until you become strong enough, or until you play against someone strong enough to really make this be important. I mean, it's a move difference on the board. Just to play here, why is that important? It's not easy. And there's many Josekis like this. So many. Let me see if I can think of another one from the top of my head. Okay, I mean, maybe a bit of a weird example, because it's a bit more clear that you should indeed answer. But we have this one, right, where black plays here. Okay, in this case, I guess if this would happen even on this board position, I guess we would want to play 06 anyways. But I mean, who knows? Maybe some of you actually want to take white's base here and let yourself be Atari, play somewhere else again. And you have a corner already, right? Why not trade a move here at 06 with 2 moves on the board? Just some ideas. I'm basically advising you guys to play bad moves, but it's because I also value realism, right? Don't just play things because they are the way they are. So someone said just about omitting f17 for instance. Yes. Yeah, I mean, actually, there are also these type of good tenukis, in the sense of tenukis that have been, what's the word? Discovered, invented, whatever, around this idea of playing somewhere else and not answering locally. That's basically also how this move developed at the very beginning, right? So the general idea nowadays of this type of move that we don't really see anymore is, I'm sorry, Auntie, I don't know your Twitch name yet by heart. Yes, F17. Yeah, so what I wanted to say here was that after this move, after this Tiger's Mount, we don't really play F17 anymore. And I guess that's one of the moves that built up on this idea of efficiency and speed. And why do we have to answer as long as black's continuation is not so good, right? That's, I guess, the verdict nowadays. White can play tenuki now, and black cannot really do much locally. And yeah, but also when black simply connects, right, then this can also happen. And even though, I guess that's what Anti meant. Now I got it. Yeah, so even though this is good for black generally, try it out and see why. Don't just answer at f17, because if you think about it, you're splitting two groups, right? Black now has to kind of make a base with both of them. You're also out in the center. The game changes a bit. So never bad to experiment. Okay, so there's that. I wanted to also mention something about, maybe it's a good time to mention some risks of playing tenuki. So you can enter, first of all, I think you can enter some sort of trance of wanting to be quick, wanting to play here and there. Actually, wait, I will show, maybe it's not a bad time to show this game example, not this one. Yeah, there's actually a game, Park Young-won is white, and he's just playing everywhere, I feel. I feel like this is one of these games in which he moves from this corner to that corner, and he's just being extremely efficient. He's making these small territories, and yeah, it was interesting to watch this game in particular. You see also just one exchange, like A with B and then tenuki and play C. Yeah, so if you try to imitate this type of gameplay, you might enter some sort of trance of speed where you unnecessarily want to play everywhere. I actually remember very well how 1.5 years ago or something, I was playing with Lukan, just some training game, and I was like this. I was really trying to play everywhere because I saw the possibility to do it. Like I was actually not bad at it either. I could genuinely play here and make a good shape and then tenuki and play it. But very often it was just unnecessary. It was not bringing me much globally. You know, it turned into something vicious. And so Lukan, gave me a pretty good advice at the time, which was to be more patient. I was losing my patience. I guess that's kind of the main risk, because it's quite addictive, in fact, to be able to be present on the board everywhere. I think it can give quite a good feeling. So yeah, be careful about that, guys. Yeah. Alright, this is I chose this game just for to give an example for one type of move after which we can play tenuki. So remember when I mentioned those three, how did Marcel call them? Merits. Or wait, what was it? Yeah, the three type of merits for tenuki. One of them was to make a local situation worse for your opponent than if you wouldn't have played anything. What I'm trying to say here is that if we just don't do anything locally and we just tenuki, let's actually see where black tenukid. Black played, okay, played there. Okay, actually after this move it looks like we should answer, but let's imagine black played something else. Or wait a moment. How did it go? Like this, jump. Okay. Well, in any case, let's just imagine that black would have just extended on the side. White has very convenient moves to play on the bottom side. White can play a move like this. I think it's pretty nice to occupy that side as white now. It makes it a bit uncomfortable for black to find the proper move. Right? And there's some potential that this becomes a big area. I don't know, what do we do? Do we peep here? Of course, there's still a lot of things to think of, but I like to see this situation as, okay, we exchanged A with B, so that now, after we tenuki, white doesn't really have a great move locally to continue anymore. And we already just with one exchange diminished white's potential. As a matter of fact, this is extremely similar to the point to the reason why we play here as well. I mean, if we don't play anything, right? If we just ignore that area, then black in the future can do all kinds of things. Black can increase that area a lot, and then it's more difficult for us to go inside. Whereas if we imagine that these stones are already on the board, now it's a bit different. Okay, maybe this is not the best example in the world, but even here, I don't know. I feel like white can all of a sudden continue with this and make something interesting happen later on. Probably. Okay. I guess I disagree with this particular example, but generally, if we look from the very beginning on, we diminish black's chance to make a big framework in that area. Because black has to focus on capturing those three stones, which he never wants to do, because those stones are flexible. It's this type of circle. Yeah. So we were here, or not? We were here. Yeah. Yeah, I think this is actually not an easy skill. It looks like a very normal move, but I'm not sure how many of you would actually very confidently just throw this type of move and then start fighting somewhere else. It's this type of abstract moves, right? That when we see, we don't really understand them, and I guess that's what makes it difficult. Okay, these guys started to fight like crazy. I'm just really wondering how they continued locally on the bottom. Or did they just fight until they ended up close to that stone? It looks already like that. Cut. Okay, so we don't really see a reasonable continuation for the bottom. Okay, so white just swallowed that stone in the end. That means nothing to us. Yeah. You see, guys, this is what happens. You play a move here at A in order to then capture B and C. I'm sorry about coughing. I actually had corona recently. It was really not nice. Yeah. Okay, next example. Aha, we already got here. Yeah, this is actually from a game. So this is not anymore a professional game. Maybe I shouldn't have mentioned it, and I should have waited until someone maybe noticed that something is weird. Yeah, so there were a few things in this game that it's a game played in the NGD, and there were a couple of moments where the tenuki topic appeared. And so, for example, in this situation, playing this type of bump is understandable. I mean, I understand the thought behind it. White doesn't want black to crawl at C with like this type of move, or who knows, maybe this type of move, and to kind of just steal the base. White doesn't want that, but white should want it in a way, because if we play here, we don't actually fix the aji, do we? There's still the move at L17 that is very much there, and I guess that this whole discussion about tenuki can also teach us a little bit of shape in this type of cases, right? If we know that it is quicker to just play tenuki and to let our opponent crawl or whatever, then and that's a plus for us. So what I'm saying here is that if, let's say, white just takes some big point on the board, right? If black crawls here, our group is not in danger at all. This area was never ours to be afraid that we are losing it. And white stones are really not in danger. These stones are free to run away and to make eyes and God knows what. They are, I would say, not at all weak stones. So in that sense, if the game goes like this and white played a very big move and black crawled and white plays another very big move, white just played A and B, which are significantly bigger than C. So as a matter of fact, even though C might be a big move by itself, black does not want to play it yet, right? And there's the concept of necessity that tells us we should not play somewhere or protect somewhere if it's not necessary, right? If that's, of course, if it's not the biggest move. Yeah, and also ending up in gote is also definitely not a nice idea. Like if we end up in gote like this, it's such a conservative way of playing, right? And a passive way, because we did not, like, we played something in gote and we gave our opponent more than we got, in my opinion, because black's strength here now, I think it's quite valuable, and we are also giving black the sente, so I think white is losing rather than earning something through these exchanges. Yeah, okay, that was one thing, but that was not the main thing of this game. I also wanted to show a little bit of how tenuki shows up in a middle game situation as well. So not only in Fuseki and Joseki. So we have this situation, right? Well, never mind those numbers. They don't matter to us. So white is actually connected here. Black cannot disconnect these stones. If black goes on the first line here, then white can just cut at C7. There's a damezumari. Is it called damezumari? I'm not sure. Is damezumari only when there's a race between two groups, or is it just generally shortage of liberties? Yeah, that's actually, I guess, the players of the game can see. Generally, you think, right? Yeah, I also think so. Yeah, so these stones cannot be cut, and that is why I also wrote a comment in this game when I reviewed it, that playing A here, which is what happened in the real game, is pretty small, right? It's just, considering white's group doesn't have to run out, and and there's no way in which white can really attack these stones anytime soon by cutting them off somehow. I mean, black can even connect if he wants to. Then it just becomes a slow move. But the problem is not with white, in fact. Like, okay, we are allowed to play a slow move every now and then. But black continued to answer. And this created this type of... I answered because you played there, and then, he answered, so I will continue to play locally. And Damezumari in the kitchen. I don't know what you're cooking, Victor, but what does Damezumari in the kitchen mean? Maybe white thought that black A, which is Sente, would help black upper left area too much. But black's A is not Sente. That's the thing. White is connected already, as I said. Or what do you mean? Is this what you mean? That if black plays here, it's Sente? Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. It is not. It is not threatening anything. The white's group is connected and alive. And okay, the most that this move maybe does is giving this, but it's not even so great, is it? There's this Atari, and then we don't want to answer. No, I think there's no real reason to play there locally. There's a lot of things going on the board still, right? We have something going on at A, and there's actually this move that the AI keeps suggesting over and over again, and invading here or something, invading the corner, playing on this side. There's many big moves, and there's always the risk. So now I'm showing the real game. D8 has not enough liberties for black. D8. Liberties, was it in some other sequence that I placed before? Because I'm not quite sure what you mean right now. D8. Yes, D8 generally doesn't have much liberties. That's why white is connected, basically. Yeah. Yeah, anyways, I guess you guys got the point. It's very easy to, in your own game, get in this type of trance of, I'm playing here because my opponent played it, and then you play this type of 10 move sequence without really knowing yourself why you play it. Yeah, or it's... I mean, it looks like white gained, but then in the end, I guess no one really lost anything, right? Because they both played there. Black got stronger with his stones from the outside, while white entered black's territory a little bit, and now can enter even more. So it's a win-win, I guess, for both players. But yeah, in any time point, if someone would have played a tenuki, then they would have had the upper hand. And especially in the first few moves, here, right? If black plays now this move, this is a very big move. Yeah, it's actually on this board, when I checked with AI, it's was very interesting to see how excuse me, how G is so big for white, and also for black to play this move at P8. I guess it's because of it's kind of a reverse Sente type of situation on a larger scale. If black plays here and then white plays somewhere else, then there's also this attach that all of a sudden does not only increase the side but also creates some center and so on. And as opposing to that, if white plays there, then yeah, it's this type of exchanges in which we give our opponent more points, I guess. Yeah, but we are making the situation clear and erasing the potential in the center, and we get Sente and all of that. Yeah, a lot of benefits also on white side. So white has strong connection. Yeah, white seems to have strong connection. I mean, what could black do there locally if white just plays tenuki? It's connected at all times, isn't it? I don't really see a move that black can play there. That would be... Yeah, it's connected. I mean, in endgame... But no, forget about it. I was just gonna say something stupid. Okay, let's see the next example. Oh wow. Oh, this looks complicated. I wonder why I selected this game. There must be a reason. Somehow I have no notes for this game. Was it because of this bottom thing only? Might be. Yeah, I guess it's about how... yeah, it actually makes sense. Yeah, so it is pretty similar to the other example we had, where the idea was that if we just play somewhere else, then white has a nice move locally. And if we don't want to give this type of move locally, then we just make an exchange. And then we tenuki, and then we never really play again in that area. Not anytime soon, right? We don't need to. I mean, if we would play locally, then we would risk that we give white the upper hand to gain speed and to play somewhere else on the board, right? And then we would end up in this type of case scenario where white is playing everywhere and we are not really doing much locally, right? This is more or less a neutral area, this whole circle here. Yeah. So, well, white played a move there. It's also not bad to make a base and attack a stone, of course. But black doesn't have to answer. Already, black probably considers this shape on the bottom to be more efficient than if he would have not done anything there and white would have played there first. Yeah, so it's once again that type of tenuki move. This is the Park Kyung-won game. Yeah, we can look a little bit through it to see how he continued, because he continued actually not only at the beginning in these first three josekis and this shoulder hit and tenuki, but like continuously in this game, Park Kyung-won was all about tenuki. You see also here, black played a move, make an exchange, tenuki again. Then after he jumped here, black went through his stones, tenuki again. It was just really present everywhere, not giving black too much time to breathe and to really... I think actually it happens every now and then when I follow professional games. And a 9-dan professional plays against a lower dan in the professional world. I was feeling like that's their general technique, maybe, how they get to win and keep themselves superior. They just have a superior positional judgment, and yeah, they are just one step ahead, right, compared to their opponent. Yeah, so okay, here he took one step back. He took the corner in gote. And then he lived. Yeah, but you see, while playing in this fashion, you also leave weaknesses behind. You leave a weakness here, a weakness there. Wait, some comments. Antti says that that's a way to think about it. Do you mean the comparison I made about the top professionals, or kept the single stone declared. Yeah. Yes, I mean Go has a lot more to it than just positional judgment, so anything can happen. You can have 95% with Katago, and then after a fight, a complicated fight appears that has zero importance whatsoever. So yeah. Ah, okay, I'm sorry. I did not read everything. Ah, yes, okay, that makes much more sense. Okay. Okay, so what Anti meant, in fact, was regarding a comment Marcel made, which was if you don't know how to attack a stone, chances are opponent doesn't know either how your stone can be attacked, right? Then your opponent doesn't know either, so you can tenuki. Yes, actually that is a very good advice, and I think this is the general mindset that Victor Lin has in his own games. I don't know, to the extent that I know him and that I know his Go, he he reads and he doesn't mind reading, I guess, most often. But if he has, if the position is unclear, he loves to tenuki. So he's very much about tenuki. He kind of leaves the problem to his opponent, which I think is also a very healthy mindset, right? It can help time-wise. It helps you to make your own strategy, basically to play your own game and to leave your opponent be stressed about how to attack something or how to protect something. Yeah. All right. So I'm not sure how much sense it makes to keep looking at this. Parking one, I felt like this was a very easy game. The feeling I got from watching this game, even though it's a top professional game, was that White was very quick and White lived here and lived there, and then he got this corner. It was the only moment when he backed down. Yeah, and because of his initial speed, which granted him these 2 stones basically, that was generally enough for him to keep the lead, and he won by a small margin without any fight happening. I mean, for their level, I feel like there was no real fight happening. I guess there was a lot of reading points wise in this game, counting and estimating which move is bigger and so on, but fighting, there was something going on here in this area where White seemed to be in danger, but then somehow White just connected all of his stones. So yeah, and that was it. Okay, let's see. One of the last examples. Aha, this is actually another game from the NGD, where I thought it is quite nice to take White here as an example on how to how to handle with a Moyo oriented style, and how to quickly occupy the big moves on the board. Sorry. Because when you play Moyo, if you lose a tempo too often, then you're done. I think it is like if one looks at the old games Takemiya Masaki was playing, the master of the center, he was playing a lot of overplays to the nowadays standards, but he clearly always had the upper hand in the speed. He was so flexible. He could easily give up a Moyo and create another one, and then make some exchanges and then take Sente again, play Tenuki right somewhere else, and Yeah, in this game, black didn't really have this attribute. And white, as a consequence, managed to kind of take everything, right? So first, black is creating this big framework, but white already got some profit on the top and here. And then white also quite easily managed to live on the bottom here. Which you might look at this and say, okay, but white just lived small on the side. That's not really a small life. The 30 points from black or more from black's territory are now gone. And this center that is left, still there's a lot of agi that is not clearly black's yet. Right? White can attach with moves like B or stuff like that. So in the end, white managed to keep this speed and managed to keep a good direction generally. And yeah, well, here it was also a very early gain for white to capture those 3 stones. But yes, try against, I guess the advice I would give against the opponents that try to play very center oriented is to not give them time, right? Like don't just play the game with the mindset that it is bad by default for them just because they play for the center, and usually the center is hard to control and so on. You might get unexpectedly into a situation where the moyo becomes just too big and it's just too good for your opponent. I guess actually when I was studying in China, this was happening to me every now and then. I think they were so indoctrinated by the teachers there that they should not play Sanrensei and they should not play because that's outdated and it's not good. But of course they cannot always punish it if they don't have the right mindset and skill. And once in a while I was surprising some players by really trying to play either the black hole, you know, the how is it called? Is it called the black hole? I forgot its name. Well, I will show it. You guys maybe can help me. That weird Dinnerstein opening. So it's the black hole. Yeah. I mean this type of yeah. This type of very weird. It's a very weird way to play Go, but if white is too comfortable and too egoistic, I guess, to admit that it is still an okay way to play, then you can fall into you can just play too slow somehow, and then black plays everywhere, and then black all of a sudden creates these really nice frameworks that turn into points, right? So yeah, try to not give this speed to your opponent. Try the best you can to, like, you know, try to keep up with the pace of the game, I guess. Yeah, I'm not encouraging you to play weird moves, to answer with weird moves to weird moves, but at least don't just play small shimaris and make small living groups when you see that your opponent is playing very quickly and wants to make a 100 points territory. Yeah. Okay. Actually, I have finished most of the examples that I had prepared. So if you guys have any questions, then I'm open to any type of discussion. Well, in any case, I can also tell you how I managed to get out of that weird phase that I had when I was exaggerately trying to be quick on the board. I guess the only thing that I had to keep in my mind in order to fix that was the concept of necessity, right? So making good exchanges. I will answer the question in one moment. So making these exchanges that we keep talking about, they are not just universally good, right? It seems like in my games there were many cases where it was just not necessary. Like my opponent wouldn't have played there if I wouldn't have played there. You understand what I mean? So I was making some exchanges and I was trying to play everywhere in some areas where my opponent didn't have any interest anyways, kind of. So I was, yeah, after I reminded myself this concept of necessity, I started to be more patient and to once in a while also play gote moves, big gote moves, and then just wait. Because funnily in Go, there are a lot of case scenarios where you want your opponent to play the first move and not yourself. Yeah, so there's such cases. I wonder if we had any such case today. Would have been interesting to go back. Yeah. But maybe I can show a case scenario here. So actually, maybe this example is a bit forced, but the basic idea is that after white played here, no one really wants to play there locally anymore. Right? If white doesn't want to play another move there because he doesn't really feel the need to, his stones are light and doesn't really bring a plus. Okay, in the end he considered this, but black didn't answer himself, right? So yeah, and as black also, we don't really want to play there because what to play? Do we play here? Then what if we lose another move and white tenukis again? It just feels like there's no proper way to really attack these stones. So this is maybe this gets close to a case scenario where we want our opponent to play first. Yeah. Okay, now the question. When is a weak group too weak to tenuki? How do you tell? Well, we are right on spot with this. How do you tell? I mean, just as I think Victor would be a good person to look at his, I mean, well, not necessarily to explain, but to look at his games and see how he does it. Because it's about clarity, right? It's about, do you see a move that you're afraid of or not? So in this case, what would that be? If let's just look at this move. Is this something to be afraid of because black can play here next maybe, or not? I would say not still. There's this attach, white can play. White can make a living shape quite easily, I would say. There's also this hane that is still there, right? So, in fact, yeah. How to do this now? Maybe here directly. I don't know. Yeah, I'm sorry, this is not really answering your question. But if, for example, we would not have played this attach at all as white, then it makes more sense to think of an attack that we are afraid of. And maybe not even now, right? Because we can still go out. But then it becomes uncomfortable because our shape is not the best. And we just have to create this awkward shape to go out. And while black is building a lot of territory. So if you don't see a way to keep your stones flexible, then you shouldn't tenuki. Yeah. But think more, don't think of yourself so much in this situation as to your opponent. Because he's the one that is gonna play the attack in the end, so you should search for a way to attack and of course you shouldn't be too pessimistic about your own moves, right? If you, let's say you have your first thought, you're like, okay, I want to tenuki, so let's see, can my opponent attack me? And then you think of some move for your opponent, and then you're like, yeah, I have no answer to that. Of course, if you will always think in this pessimistic fashion, then you will always answer, because you will never see a good answer for yourself. You should also search for... Actually, this is what Go is about. This is what the fighting spirit... Sorry. This is what the fighting spirit is also a lot about. Trying to find a way so that you can tenuki. So maybe sometimes you don't actually feel like you can tenuki. You kind of see already an attack from your opponent. Well, just imagine in your mind that you tenuki and then try to read strong answers against your opponent's attack. And then once you found that sequence, then you can tenuki, right? And then you surprise your opponent with strong answers. You will make him regret that he didn't tenuki himself, that he started that attack in the first place. Yeah. When I was studying in Jena with Kim Young-sam, who is one of the strongest players in Europe, he's pretty strong, and I was watching him sometimes. I mean, well, he's not European, but he was playing in the European scene at the time. I was watching him playing on Fox, and I realized after the first times I watched him how full of chaos 8 Dan level games are. Like, they are not... You would expect that like people that are let's say above European professional level are more clear-minded, and they kind of know very well what's happening on the board of all times. But it's more it's really more like a boxing game, you know. It's like punch after punch, and then they just never end. A group dies, another group dies, and it's just a race to find the better Tesuji. I mean, of course, I was watching Blitz games. He was playing Blitz games, but and I guess you all know very well what I'm talking about. Also on KGS, you can see such games once in a while. So yeah. If a group is too annoying to handle, I usually let it die and pretend it was on purpose. Yeah, sure, that's also a plan. Sometimes it just doesn't die, right? Because your opponent doesn't find a way. Or it's also not too bad to die, right? There's a sacrifice style. Yeah. What were we talking about a second ago? It jumped from my mind to something regarding Young-sam, right? There's a Japanese book on tenuki. It describes 5 merits. Destroy, prevent the opponent's ideal shape, don't hand over the initiative, leave behind possibilities, playing with a quick pace, avoid complicated variations. Nice. Yeah. It seems like a more complete, even though I would need some context for avoid complicated variations. I guess I can imagine what it means, right? So basically, in that book, tenuki is also kind of a way out. That's actually a victor tenuki. That last merit sounds very much like a victor tenuki, right? To avoid complicated variations is the definition of actually, why am I only mentioning victor? I guess I'm also trying to get myself out of complicated variations by making some exchange and then playing tenuki, pretending it's not a big deal to lose something locally. Well, that's the thing. Does not create complications. It's meant to simplify, right? like when you look at tenuki moves superficially, they might look chaotic. Like the nature of tenuki is literally to play somewhere else, to play everywhere, to expand the fight on a global scale. So that sounds complicated, but yeah, sometimes it simplifies. Exactly. I like to believe that the examples we looked through today, all of them tried to simplify to a certain extent, right? When we had at the very beginning this exchange, it's making clear what black's corner is and leaves behind a continuation to reduce it even more with a move like that. Or here, all of these tenukis that white is playing on those 3 stones are kind of aiming to leave the stress behind to what should do with those, right? So we just let them be light and play on the rest of the board. I think it's generally, yeah, but you have to understand it first in order for it to be simple. Yeah, tenuki is really wonderful. I think with tenuki one can also really experiment a lot of things in joseki. For example, something that I liked to experiment a couple of weeks ago was this move. It's not really a big deal, this move. It's actually supposed to tease white so that white cuts, which is bad. And yeah, we would just jump probably. A white's correct answer is actually to play something like this and then to also jump on this side, which also which is also good actually. Even though AI thinks this is like 1% better for white than, or I don't know, 2 or 3% better for white than other variations. So it's saying that this move is a bit worse. I feel like it's interesting to provoke white to make this type of center group while black is grabbing points. So, well, this is, even though this is not really a tenuki situation, it still is kind of tenuking from the classical answer technique, right? Where we just answer. I mean, if this is possible, then why not also this? And then here we can just answer. I guess this must also not be too bad for black. I'm interested to read other merits. So, destroy, prevent the opponent's ideal shape. Yeah, this we had already as well. Don't hand over the initiative. Don't hand over the initiative. Aha, so this, I guess this one we didn't have as well. So you're saying that these are 5 merits and we had only 3, right? So the 2 that I didn't mention are don't hand over the initiative, because it's kind of I feel like it's implied in the meaning of what tenuki is, right? We are trying to be quick, trying to take the initiative. And yeah, avoid complicated variations. I didn't really feel the need to mention it because, well, yeah, as you guys mentioned, sometimes it seems like it's making it more complicated rather than avoiding complications. Yeah, well, I mean, well, if there's no more topic of discussion, I am very glad we had this lesson today. I encourage everyone to tenuki and to try and experiment tenuki as much as you can. I think especially in Fuseki it can be very satisfactory to experiment and to see what's going on. And even throughout middle game and end game, have it always in the back of your mind, because Go is a global game, and if you win a fight locally, it doesn't mean you won the war, right? So yeah, thank you everyone for watching, and I will see you next time. Yeah, goodbye. It was a pleasure. Have a great weekend. Bye.